Good morning, everybody. It's Miss Diane from Ag in the Classroom. Today we're going to learn about bees and how those bees make this delicious honey that we all enjoy. First, let's take a look at where the bees live. The bees live in a beehive. A beekeeper might have 1 or 2 beehives up to hundreds of beehives on his farm. A beehive is comprised of different boxes or sections. The bees usually live in the bottom, deeper boxes, and they're going to make their honey in the top boxes, the shallower sized boxes. There can be up to 50,000 bees that live in one beehive. Within the hive, there are different types of bees that have different jobs to do. It's the worker bees that are primarily responsible for gathering the nectar and making the honey. Let's take a look at our bee. Bees have 3 body parts: their head, thorax, and abdomen. They use their proboscis in their head to drink the nectar from a flower. And as I showed you on a previous video, they also have pollen bags or pollen collection areas on their back legs that help with pollination. That's how they move it back and forth. Let's take a look at this flower. The bee is going to insert her proboscis into the center section of the flower and drink out the nectar. Now, the nectar isn't honey, it's more like sugar water. It's very runny and sweet. The bee is going to put it into their honey sac in the second section of their abdomen and take it back to the hive. Once it gets to the hive, the worker bee is going to deposit the nectar into one of the top boxes of the hive, and inside the box there are things called frames. They kind of look like a picture frame. Now, the frame is made up of small, tiny hexagonal shaped units, and the bee is going to deposit the nectar into one of those individual hexagons. After the nectar is deposited, the bees are going to put a wax on top of the nectar. They want to preserve that nectar and honey so that it can be eaten by them throughout the winter as well as us. But before they cap it, the bees have to do another job. They have to dry the nectar, because remember I said it's kind of like sugar water. So this is where the house bees get to work, and they're going to flap their wings very, very quickly, creating a wind inside the hive that will evaporate the water, leaving the sweet, sticky, thick honey that we think of. Once this is completely capped with wax, it's time to harvest. Now, bees will collect nectar in the spring and summer, primarily with flowering plants. And they've already started with some of the early flowering bushes and trees at this point in our part of the country, but they will continue to collect nectar throughout the summer. So harvesting honey occurs in our area in early fall. When it's time to harvest, the beekeeper will take the frames out of the hive, and the first step is to use a hot knife to melt the wax off of the top of the frame. This is called uncapping the honey so that it can be taken off of the frames. The frames will then be set into a machine called an extractor. Extractors come in many sizes. It can hold 1 or 2 frames up to multiple frames. The frames spin around the center section of the extractor, and the honey flies off into the tub. It's a metal tub that will collect the honey as it comes off of the frames. Beekeepers will repeat this until they've removed honey from as many frames as they want to. They will always leave some honey in the hive so that the bees have something to eat during the winter. When the honey comes out of the extractor, some of the wax still remains. So the next step is to strain the rest of the honey. You can see in this picture that we're pouring honey into a strainer similar to how you might strain cooked spaghetti when you're making dinner. This picture shows the wax and the honey straining a little bit clearer. You can see these whiter, lighter colored thick parts, that's the wax, and the golden color is the honey. It's going to strain through a very, very fine strainer for a long time until it drains through. Finally, when all the wax is removed, it's time to pour it into a jar to keep it for us to enjoy later in the year. So bees go to a lot of work to create the honey that we enjoy on our cereal or in our tea or in our bread. So the next time you have a sandwich with some honey on it, thank a bee. It was a long summer that he had to work to get us this delicious, golden, yummy treat. That's it for today. Can't wait to see you guys. Miss you. Bye.